Look at what happened right after Adam and Eve sinned, and they brought this fallen condition into the world. Genesis 3:7 says, at that moment their eyes were opened, and they suddenly felt shame at their nakedness. Other translations say that they knew that they were naked. However you put it, they had an awareness of their fallen condition, and they were afraid. And so it led them to do three things that you'll recognize that we still do to deal with our shame today. Nothing has changed really in some 6,000 years. So the first thing that they did, Genesis 3:7, they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. They tried to cover their shame. Now, I know that we don't sew fig leaves anymore, but we do try to cover our shame with all kinds of other things like success and achievement, approval. I realized as I got older that I could do certain things well and that people would like me for doing those certain things. So I took on this approval complex, this achievement, this success kind of complex, or this identity whereby I only wanted people to see me based upon what I could do that was good. That way they would never see past that to see what I really feared about myself. I've heard from all kinds of people who have struggled with great addictions, whether it be substance, whether it be sexual addictions. In every case, every single one of them was always something that would ease the pain, something that was an escape from reality, even if it was just for a little bit. People that have overcome great sexual addictions have told me that almost in every case I've heard the same thing. That it just felt good to be wanted because they never had that before. It was a wound that they were trying to cover. You know, Adam and Eve, those fig leaves that they covered themselves with, maybe you didn't realize, but fig leaves have an enzyme in them that human skin reacts against. So basically what they ended up doing is they were trying to cover their pain just with more pain. And when we do that with approval and addictions, all we end up doing is covering one thing to cover another thing, because shame leads to more shame, leads to more shame, leads to more shame, and it's just this vicious cycle. A covering doesn't work. But the next thing that Adam and Eve did, in verse 8, it says, when the cool evening breezes were blowing, the man and his wife heard the Lord God walking about in the garden. So here's the second thing, they hid from the Lord among the trees. Adam and Eve didn't want to be seen in their fallen, their broken condition because they were afraid that God wouldn't accept them. And so they hid. And we don't want to be seen in our broken, our fallen conditions, or what we fear are our conditions, because we're afraid God won't accept us, or we're afraid that other people won't accept us. So we hide. And some people, they completely hide from other people. If they don't have to be around people outside of work, outside of school, then they go to their homes and they become a hermit where nobody can ask any questions. They're happy just to be with their dog or with their book, and I'm not saying that anything is wrong with any of those things, but those things can't ask questions. Those things can only get so close. Those things can't really know what they fear about themselves. Or some people, we hide in plain sight. Maybe we're social. We're happy being social about our politics and our religion and our profession, but we're only going to let people get so close they can't touch me. So we build up great walls to protect this tender wound of shame. I remember some of the greatest complaints I had in relationships that I would be in up to so many years ago was it just seems like you have such walls built up. And yeah, I did have walls built up, but the problem with walls is that you can't admit that you have walls, because if you admit that you have walls, then you have to talk about the reason you have the walls, which is the very thing you're afraid that if people know this, then they're going to reject me. So you just build more walls and more walls and more walls and more walls, and you become more and more and more isolated, which only makes you feel more like an outsider, like nobody can really get to know you, and it just creates more pain. Ignoring is not the road to redeeming. But look at this next one. When they were confronted about their issue, Genesis 3:11, God asked them, who told you that you were naked? Look at Adam's response here in verse 12. It was the woman you gave me who gave me the fruit and I ate it. Understand, look at that. Adam didn't even answer the question. all he did was point somewhere else. And then Eve wasn't any more innocent in this. God said, what have you done? And she said, the serpent deceived me. That's why I ate it. She didn't really answer the question either. Adam blamed it on the woman and blamed it on God. The woman you gave me, God. And Eve blamed it on the devil. The devil made me do it. But none of them dealt with really the real issue. And we play this blame game too, which I really think is called a victim mentality. Somehow we think that by blaming the pain on society, on politics, on somebody else, something else, genetics, biology, whatever the case, that is going to deal with the pain. And it might ease it for a minute because, yeah, maybe some of those things aren't your fault. The struggles and the issues that I had, I did not choose. But I also had to realize that I couldn't go ranting and raving about how, when, why, where, and the birth of all of this stuff in me. Eventually I had to realize that no blaming, no victim mentality was going to change the fact that I had a wound in me that had to be dealt with regardless of how it got there.